All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our 12th edition of Career Ed Talks. And today we are going through the career field of human services. And that cluster is divided up into 3 different pathways. So that includes counseling and mental health, family and community services, and then also consumer services. And today we have 2 amazing representatives of the human services career field, and they're going to share a little bit about what they do, how they got to where they are, and why they're so passionate about their career. My name is Kelly Thawley. I am the career specialist here for the School District of Lee County, and I am joined with my co-partner, Brandy Fulgham, and she is also career specialist here at the district. I see that we have one class on, so thank you so much, Mr. Shell, for joining us. And then let's go ahead and I will introduce both of our speakers today. We have Patrice Cunningham, and she is with the United Way. And we also have Michele King. She is with Lee Health and the Child Advocacy Program. She is the director there. Very quickly, I do want to do a screen share just to show this infographic from the Department of Education in Florida. Can you see that? Okay. So currently in human services, there are almost 17,000 enrollments in high school programs in Florida and a little over 12,000 in middle school. The post-secondary enrollments in the district are over 3,000, and the top post-secondary programs, so these would be in your technical colleges. So this is your pathway from high school into certification. Those focus more so in those consumer services. So that would be cosmetology, barbering, nails, facials. In high school, the top program by far is cosmetology, and then barbering, and you can see how it goes on down. Here in our Lee County high schools, we actually do not have any of these programs. That would be something that would be a dual enrollment course with the technical colleges here. So Cape Coral Tech and Fort Myers Tech. And then over here, you can see the articulation pathway. You can have 225 hours post-secondary credits that will go into a career certificate. And this is how much you could save, $524 in state clock hour tuition savings. So it's a very good field, lucrative field, especially here in Southwest Florida, definitely needed. And today, as I said, we're probably dealing a little bit more with those family and community services under that human services career cluster. So I will go ahead and stop my share. And now we will go directly into the panel. So we will start with Patrice, if you don't mind kind of kicking us off and doing a little introduction about your educational background, maybe any certificates, degrees that you have, and how you got into what exactly your role is with United Way and how you got into that position.
Okay, so I went to school in New York, and I have a bachelor's of business administration from Hofstra University with a major in marketing. Came down to Florida through Anheuser-Busch and family, actually. So I was brought into, so as the United Way, I am the volunteer center director. And my job, wow, we cover so many fields. We have several programs within our agency. So with direct services, with our volunteer programs, and then information referral services. So I was brought in to start our family mentor program. And throughout my career, I've been in different marketing jobs, a lot of my volunteer background was for events and raising money and things like that. So, but I was brought into the United Way to do a grassroots program with the Children's Network. And we were to recruit adult mentors to work with parents who were being reunified with their kids after being in the foster care system. So what they did was they found a gap that parents, for whatever reason, they lost contact with their kids into the system. Now that they were able to come back with them, we wanted to make sure they had a mentor, a role model, a parental role model to make that transition a little smoother and give them those skills they needed to go forward. So that's how I was brought into United Way, and I've grown through that position to work with a staff of 3 or 4 in the volunteer center. We promote volunteer opportunities out in the community. One of my other major programs is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. So my job is different every day, or seasonal. It's kind of like we go through these season patterns. So this time of year, we're doing taxes for free for household incomes of $66,000 or less, which is just about 80% of Lee County. And we're just, giving those folks that comfort they need to do a tax return. We're doing it for them. We're engaging over 200 volunteers in our area. So it's a win-win for engaging our community, yet serving our community on the other side. And that program brings about $10 million in refunds back to our area. So people can get access to all the right credits, feel comfortable getting their tax return done, and things like just kind of a brief overview.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then obviously the refund money that comes back, that $10 million goes back into
Goes right back in
society.
Yeah, right. So rent, medical payments, it's a lot of money that folks need. A lot of our seniors, don't feel comfortable doing returns. Our families, we want to make sure they get those child credits. So yeah, it definitely comes back.
Awesome. So like you said, it's a win-win for everyone. Let's jump over to Michele. So thank you, Patrice, for sharing your background. Michele, can you share a little bit about your background, degrees, certifications, and how you got to be in the position that you're in?
Sure. I went to the University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, originally to be a nurse, but I volunteered at the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, and I stumbled upon a career called a child life specialist. So then I was enrolled in the child development program. So I graduated with a bachelor's degree in child development in Pittsburgh. And then in order to be a child life specialist, which is a pretty unique career, you need to complete an internship in a children's hospital in the child life program. So I did my internship at Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. I worked in Pittsburgh for about a couple of years, and then we relocated to Florida, where I became a child life specialist at the Children's Hospital Southwest Florida, which is here. So I was the first one here. There was no one here. There was someone prior who had left. And so I'll just describe what that is. So a child life specialist is somebody who works in a children's hospital with the medical team. And we are the people that help the children understand what's going to happen to them based on their developmental level. So in your internship, in your degree, you learn about child development, typical, non-typical, et cetera. So in the hospital, there's all kinds of treatments and procedures. A child needs an IV started, or needs to have an x-ray done, or needs to go to surgery. So the child life specialist meets with the child, and based on their developmental level, helps them understand what's going to happen next. So they might use a doll, they might use now an iPad, they might use a book, based on, so you would prepare a 5-year-old very differently than a 10, than a 16-year-old, have a procedure done. So when children know what's going to happen next, they're less anxious, and typically they're more cooperative. So child life is part of the team. We have to know all of the treatments and procedures so we can help the children understand them. And then we support the child through that. So the child life specialist would accompany the child to have the IV, and they might have made a plan that while the nurse is going to get ready and prepare your arm for the IV, maybe we're looking at an I Spy book, or we're watching the iPad, or we're looking at a light spinner. So they do distraction and relaxation, but they're not part of the procedure. So the children view them as the safe people that are helping them understand. And in between treatments and procedures, the child life specialists are normalizing the hospital environment so it's not such a scary place. So they run all of the playrooms, they schedule all of the visitors, they help supervise the volunteers, the pet therapy, all of the things that help make the hospital less scary. So I was one child life specialist, and today we have 12. And we've been able to grow the child life program throughout the Golisano Children's Hospital. So you'll probably find them from the emergency room to the operating room. So in the operating area, they prepare children to have surgery, and they even go back into the OR with the children until they go to sleep with their anesthesia, and then they come back out. So they're not doing anything, they're just helping support the child so that it's a less scary experience. So it is unique. So we do offer an internship here. You have to have had a bachelor's degree. It's 15 weeks long, 40 hours a week. And then you graduate and you finish that. And then we all sit for a certification examination. So we are certified child life specialists, and we have to recertify every 5 years to maintain that certification. And so very much you're part of the hospital team, sit on committees, attend the meetings, care conferences. We're involved in bereavement, death and dying. So it's just a supportive piece. They're kind of an important piece to the Children's Hospital. So as time went on, the Children's Hospital got in the business of injury prevention. That was near and dear to my heart, to keep children out of the hospital. So then I slowly moved away from the bedside and helping children, become the director of Child Advocacy Program gradually. So I oversee also our injury prevention, child abuse prevention, and health education efforts here at the Golisano Children's Hospital.
Awesome. What a really cool and unique career. It's a neat way to kind of overlap medical with human services, and probably even a little bit of education as well.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we're finding a lot. And it's really important for our students to hear, is that you don't have to stick with one specific career field. A lot of times those fields overlap. So it's more important for students to figure out what they're passionate about and what they enjoy doing, so that they don't wake up, not wanting to go to work. They wake up every day excited about what they do and excited about their career, instead of trying to fit into a specific career field. All right, let's see. Patrice, why do you think that you chose your career? Speaking about passions and what we care about, why are you in the field that you're in, especially human services? It takes a very caring type of person.
I agree. I think whole family background, we were always volunteering, always helping folks. So I think when you do that, you get to see different aspects of either different companies or different human services organizations, whether it's doing stuff for the March of Dimes, who work with children, or we used to raise, even when I first moved to Florida, I worked with a group who would raise money for the Children's Hospital, so for things like that. So even though I had my career in marketing and travel for so long, I always found myself volunteering with different programs with United Way. And that's another way you can find out what career you want to go into. So if you think you're passionate about something, you can volunteer somewhere. I found that my skills whenever I volunteered was always event planning, the overall big picture person. How do you start a program? How do you run something new? And those skills are what brought me to United Way, because here they had a new program. They knew that I could see the big picture of what they wanted and figure out how that worked into the community. And I was brought in. So being a past volunteer and making myself known to that industry just kind of worked me along that way. And I felt like everything that I did along the way, so it was, whether it was high school volunteering to, college, we did programs and events in college volunteering. So I've kind of, when I look back, all that just kind of prepared me for what I do now. And it's something I'm good at, and it's a natural thing. And then on the inside, the end result is I get to, the end of the day, we get to help someone, make their life easier, make them more comfortable in what they do. So that's a great feeling.
A very good point too about getting involved early. It's good for students to remember that if it is something that you're interested in, start out as a volunteer. Make sure that you definitely do like it. You may find that you don't enjoy that, and that's just as important and powerful to know what you don't like as what you do like. And starting out as a volunteer and working your way through that process may eventually lead to a career with that organization. Michele, what about you? Why did you choose this pathway? What are your passions?
I wanted to work with children. I'm the oldest of 5, and I babysat a lot in high school and spent a lot of time around children. I just thought nursing would be interesting. I wanted to be a pediatric nurse. But when I got into the hospital and I saw what Child Life did, the nurses were taking care of children and giving medicine and changing diapers and making beds and doing all that. And Child Life was like really helping kids understand. And when you could see them go from being so scared to being like, okay, I could do this, it was just it was like a light bulb went off. Like, if I could impact them that way, that might be more important to me than healing them medically. So I felt like psychologically I could make a difference, and that just kind of stuck with me. And I think it's been such a great career and a great place to be. It puts life in perspective. And really, people might say sometimes it's so sad to work at a children's hospital, but actually it's so rewarding for the things that Patrice said. At the end of the day, you have helped somebody, even in their worst moment, which, we are not a huge children's hospital, so we don't have those occurrences every day. But even in the worst times, families can be so thankful for what people did for them, and it sticks with them, and it's important. So I think it's very gratifying. I do think you have to be passionate about helping families and helping others.
Right. It brings that human side, of human services to the medical field. What does a typical day look like? I know for both of you, you said your days kind of change, but what time do you start your day? What time do you end? What are your weekly hours? What's required for the positions that you're in? Let's start with Michele for this one.
Well, as a director, it's kind of boring for me, when I work through the week. I work 8 to 9 hours a day. And I'm supervising, so I'm in my office part of the day. I'm in meetings. I'm sometimes on the patient units because I'm, attending meetings and meeting with staff with regards to my staff throughout the hospital. So I'm up and down throughout the hospital. As a child life specialist, you might work an 8-hour day, you might work a 10-hour day, you might work into the evening till like 10 at night. You might start your day as early as girls in the operating area start at 6:30. The girls in the emergency room finish at 10:30 p.m. You might work an 8-hour shift and you might work a 10-hour shift. And no 2 days are the same because you never know who's going to come into the hospital. You don't know how old they're going to be. You don't know what their situations are going to be. So you have to be incredibly flexible and quick on your feet. And flexibility is really the main thing, I think, the ability to prioritize who needs you first and more so, and then to prioritize your shift and your day. And you just have to really be able to communicate with a vast majority of other individuals, from family members to the medical team. So you really have to have good communication skills, I would say, and be really flexible because your days are very different. But those are the typical 10-hour, 8-hour shifts in children's hospitals that you'll see for child life.
Thank you. Patrice, same question.
For my position as a director, it's this time of year, it's probably a 9 to 10-hour day, just because we're in the height of tax season and the IRS changed laws. But I'll have, I may start in the morning doing some emails. We have a lot more flexibility with hours because I may be working a Saturday, supporting one of our team members or being at an event. With with United Way, we do some campaign stuff. So just for today, I'm getting up, I'm here, I'm working with students, which is actually one of my favorite part of my day. I also part of the FAFSA team. So I love that I get to integrate that way. So there's always something different going on, but at the same time, I need to be able to be flexible, to be hands-on. So if we have one of our volunteers who needs support, we can go on site. I've done probably more taxes this year, whereas in the past 5 years running this for the tax program, I hardly ever did taxes. I was more of a support supervisor position, but with COVID and volunteers, getting quarantined and things, so I may jump in and do a few tax returns. Tonight we have a fundraiser for United Way, so I'll do that. So we have a lot more flexibility in time. So if I have to work a Saturday, I can, take off, make up that time during the week. Our slower season tends to be over the summer. So with all of the services going on here, we can do that. But just to give you an idea of some of the other stuff we have in the United Way, like with 211, our information and referral hotline, those are folks who are on the phones answering questions for their referral service for the community. So if someone finds themselves in need, whether it's right now, most of our calls are for vaccines. Where can I get a vaccine? what are the effects? Where are the testing centers? So a lot of our human service professionals there will answer those phones, answer those questions for those folks and see if there's other services they need as well. So it might be a senior who's trying to get a vaccine who also needs an appointment to get their taxes done. And they may find that they were having trouble, with food. So, can we refer them to the Meals on Wheels program? So that's just another part of some of the stuff we do that is, career-wise, that is direct connecting with individuals and offering them services. So I know, just wanted to give kind of some of the other aspects in our office. And we have folks that are in our fundraising department who go out in the field, work with businesses, work with communities. So if you like to talk to people, and chat and do presentations and things like that, you get to see both sides of that as well, and get them involved in volunteering. So we've got a lot of stuff going on. So my day is dynamic. Typically we're supposed to work a 40-hour work week, but it changes. But we do offer that flex time so we can make sure everyone doesn't burn out.
Which I think is very important to remember in human services.
Yes.
I think out is something that's very easy because everyone is so passionate and caring about what they're doing that it's a real thing by putting yourself out there, working long hours and making that commitment to helping. Sometimes you have to take care of yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing as well a little bit about what the United Way as a whole does, because it is such an important organization for communities. And I don't know that a lot of students know what the United Way is, but it's there and it supports a lot of other smaller nonprofits and even some larger nonprofits that are providing support and resources for the constituents in the community. So thank you for sharing about that. I also see that Jake has joined us. So Jake, hi, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. I don't have much time because we have another meeting coming up, but it's good to be on and check it out for sure. I'll be on the next one, so until as many as you have.
Awesome, thank you. Well, I will go ahead then and turn it over to you very quickly. What time do you have to be off?
Oh wait, turn it over to me for what?
Just to kind of share a little bit about your job and what you do on a day-to-day basis and how you got to be in your position.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'd love to. So yeah, I'm an intensive case manager over here at Lutheran Services. At Lutheran Services, we have a lot of different domains of how we're helping the youth out there. We have some that are more in the DCF kind of filter, and then we have some that are more we have like shelters as well. But I'm the non-res intensive case manager, and I'm dealing mainly with like preventative services. So we deal with the youth, usually ages like 8 through 17, who aren't going to school, who aren't listening at home, and we're trying to I get and work with the family a little bit more closely. A lot of the counselors that we have that work with just the youth will push off the families that are a little bit more intense, that have maybe homelessness issues or addiction issues or domestic violence or anything that kind of enthralls the whole entire family. They'll push it off to the intensive case managers, and we come into the family and kind of refer out to United Way. A lot of times we use 211 a ton. We use that resource, and any mental health facilities around that we can think of, and it's just a holistic approach to working with these kids. And what I do, I go to the home a lot. It's been different with COVID. Obviously, there's been a lot of different approaches now. We have a lot of virtual meetings, but I'm still trying as much as I can to just put on that mask and go see them face to face, because it really makes a difference to see them. And we're really just working on getting them back into school. Again, though, like the differences of cases I have are, I have the kid that is just stuck on his video game and not wanting to go to school, and kind of like there's something going on at home, but he's just kind of he has no motivation, to the girl who's gotten into every single drug at age 13, and we have a fear that she might be getting influenced in human sex trafficking or something like that. So I mean, it's like full scope of people, and it's just, I'm learning so much, because I'm not an expert in everything, so I come in and I give what I can. And as a case manager, I'm referring to who I can, but I'm just learning so much in this job as well. I've been here for about a year. Kelly, you knew I was doing financial stuff before this, so I came in with that background a little bit. But I do have a psychology and a sociology degree. Who is this catered to, by the way, Kelly? These ed talks. This is the first time I've been on them.
Yeah, so this is a panel and we're recording it as well, and we'll be sending it out. It's for high school students, middle school students. We have one classroom that's on right now, and that is a class from South Fort Myers High School, and they are the Jobs for Florida Graduates class. So they are just learning all different types of careers and doing career exploration. But we do record them and we make them available to all of our teachers to incorporate in their lesson plans however they see fit. So it's just a method of career exploration for our students to see what is available in Lee County and what jobs they could possibly have once they graduate. And we cater it to the different career clusters. So today's panel is all about human services. So for any student who might be interested in going in that direction, just seeing what's available, and I like to find, things that they normally wouldn't think of. So if you think of human services, a lot of times they think of more of those consumer services. So cosmetology, barbering. So that's why I'm so happy to have all three of you on here, because it does give a little bit of a different aspect to that human services, more of that family and child aspect. So Jake, you do have a really interesting story. I know that your background was mostly financial, and you went kind of that financial route, and you were doing financial advising, financial planning, and now you've made a complete 180 and you're doing human services. So can you share a little bit about your passion and why you changed and what kind of pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I was at New York Life. I was doing sales and insurance, and then I went into banking. And then I was ready to make a change and get out of there. And my friend who worked here at Lutheran Services told me to just go in for an interview. And I was a little bit worried because I was making some pretty good money at the bank, and I knew I was going to take a little bit of a pay cut. So when I went in, I wasn't really actually planning on working here. I was just planning on hearing about it and listening and seeing what is it that she does anyway. So when I went into the interview and I sat down with the other intensive case manager, and she told me a day in the life of, it hooked me. I mean, she was like, you'll be out talking to school social workers, you'll be talking to their teachers, the principals, you'll be talking to mental health service. I was like, that's me. I see myself in that role, and I don't really care how much I'm making. I'll do it. And I saw the opportunity. I saw that, I can get my master's degree with this company. So the purpose that you kind of feel for these jobs is like what kind of leads you into it. And then you get into it, and then you see the opportunities, and yeah, you can kind of move all around if you wanted to. So that's kind of my story on how I switched over. I did get a psychology and a sociology degree, so I was very wanting to do something with those degrees. I would say to the students that are listening, we have an unbelievable internship program here we're making it better and better, where you come in, and it's mainly for the college kids. So it's when you get into FGCU, I mean, it could be other colleges as well, but we bring them in and they work basically they get a lot of field experience, and they come in with us, and so they can learn a lot being here, and kind of a lot of these interns switch right over and start working with us too. So the type of positions over here, I mean, you can get a position at the shelter, working kind of more head on with the kids who are there. And those kids are either court ordered to go there because of the stuff that, that they've gone through in terms of like not going to school enough, or you can be with kids who are there just because they're homeless. So the shelter has a lot of different types of kids as well. So the interns enjoy working with them. I know I'm kind of all over the place there, but yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. We'll go on to our next question. So this is one of the questions the students always want to know. And this might take you a minute to think of it. What is kind of either an interesting story, a funny story, something memorable that happened to each of you personally within your job, within your daily duties? Just a story that kind of sticks out in your mind. Does anyone have something right away that?
I'll go first. I mean, I have something. The one I like to tell is one of the kids I work with loves basketball, and he wasn't going to school, and I couldn't get him to school. So I would come over to the neighborhood he lived in a trailer, and he had this little basketball thing outside his house that he'd always play on. So one time I said, all right, I'll play you. Let's play one-on-one then. I said, but we have to make a bet here. Like I said, if I win, you got to come into the shelter for a little bit and start going to school. And he was like, well, what happens if I win? I said, well, Lutheran Services is always pretty good, like getting them stuff if it's like under $25. So I was like, I'll get you whatever you want. It has to be under $25 though. He's like, all right. So we played, and I'm telling you, this kid's good. Like, he's 14 years old, but he like ran circles around me. But I kept going. It was like a really good game. We went on like win by 2. It kept going. But I finally won, and he actually did go to the shelter. So it was like a little success. But I think that was like a really good little story there.
That's awesome. Well, and it shows too that you have to build that relationship. And that, I think, is probably at the base of human services, is building the relationship with whoever you are providing your services to. So awesome story. Michele or Patrice, do either of you have something funny, memorable?
I don't know about funny because it's a children's hospital, but meaningful. So I also oversee, we have a hospital school teacher, and she works in my program with Child Life. And we had a patient a little over a year ago who had cancer, and she was a young woman in high school. She was a very good student, almost all A's and B's. And her family struggled, and she was always taking care of everybody. She was the one really achieving everything. And she got a cancer that was really rough, and she had all the side effects you could have, but she always wanted the teacher to still come in. She wanted to learn. She wanted to keep learning. She relapsed and had some more treatments, and she wanted to learn. So we were approaching graduation, and all she wanted was to graduate from high school. So she had to do the work, though. There's no giving in for that. You have to have your credits, as you guys all know. And she did the work at the hospital with the teacher, with Child Life, with her family. That they, as usual, they send the work, but the principal and the people behind the scenes were able to get her diploma made, her gown and her cap, and they brought it to the hospital, and she graduated in her room up on the unit with probably 75 of us all there and her family. And it just made her day. Like, that was her true accomplishment, and she worked so hard for it. It definitely wasn't given to her. And I think everyone just felt like, wow, it takes a village, and she just really, it just made her whole day. So I think that those are the kind of moments that happen here that are memorable and meaningful for us and for the families too.
Oh, that's a really, really awesome story. That's so cool. Yeah. And what a good story for our students to hear.
Yes.
This girl is dealing with so much personally and still fighting for her education and wanting to graduate. So that's awesome.
It was great.
Patrice, did you have a story?
Yeah, just trying to focus on one. So when I first started the Family Mentor Program, we had actually one of our staff volunteer and be a mentor. And, we work with some really young moms. So we had a young mom who had, a young baby, and I would say she was probably about 17 or 18. So we worked with her for like almost 2 years. But when our mentor worked with her, she taught her how to drive. So these are like those parental skills. She taught her how to drive. She helped her get her GED, gave her those parenting skills that she needed, and even communication skills. So all of these skills that you develop throughout, you can share with folks or with volunteering. But one of the things was, patience, and with the job she had, she was able to help her just communicate with her boss. We see authority figures, and we don't know how to talk to them, and I remember being in high school, you're just scared to death of everybody who's just older. How do I talk to them? But so just her being able to do all of these things just made her a better mom. And I think she calls back every year, just to touch base and say, hey, I'm doing this, I was promoted to manager. She gives us updates on her son and how he's doing in school. So, when enough people care, and just being able to listen and talk to somebody and help them through that process, or give them those skills that they might not be getting, at home, or for some ever process, or breaking those cycles, just really, just really touches your heart and gives you that meaning. Like, there's meaningful. I mean, you can't always help everyone, but the people you can, that you can, give that hand up, that's just that little push so that they can get on their own, really makes our jobs worthwhile. And then the fact that we can refer them to other sources, just like the other agencies that you talk about, we have those connections, so we can refer them and make sure that they get all of what they need, as long as they're willing. So if you're willing to do it, the help is there.
Thank you. Thank you all for sharing those stories. Next question, what type of personality traits work well in this field? So think about your daily job and speaking to our students. What are some personality traits that would lead to this type of career and some fulfillment for these students? We'll start with Michele.
Someone who's compassionate, who has compassion. Someone who, again, it can be flexible, but I think someone who is open to learning, who can work well as part of a team, who can, I think being part of a team is really important in this role. There's small teams like your immediate child life team, and then there's a big team, the team you work on every day in different units. So being a good team member, which means you need to communicate well and collaborate with others. And it does require a good degree of professionalism. Things might not always go your way, and things can sometimes be frustrating, but how do we handle that? And that sometimes comes with just experience and good mentors and patience. So I would say those are the things that we look for when we're looking at interns and hiring.
Patrice?
Definitely good communication skills, being organized, being able to plan, but also being able to think on your feet. Because sometimes, and knowing your field and knowing what's available. So, things can change in a minute, and we just kind of have to make sure that we, like you said, the compassion, being professional, making people feel comfortable and safe with their information, that you're not, getting it out there to everyone. But definitely good customer service.
Awesome. And Jake?
Agree with everything they've said, but I'll add on to it. Some adaptability kind of goes on with what you were saying, Patrice, like just being able to kind of work with roll with the punches, I guess, right? Because this is going to be different every day, which is also what's exciting about the job. With that being said, I think another one is like creativity. I mean, people who can think outside of the box in this job tend to do pretty good, come up with some idea that no one ever thought about for a kid, or a fundraiser that we should be doing at the office because we want to raise money for something, or something, outside the box that kind of, I see that going really well in this type of field too.
Thank you. So another question that students always answer is pay. And I know when we're talking about human services, a lot of times it is nonprofits. I know we have two of you on here that are nonprofits, and usually that means you're doing it for the sense of purpose and not necessarily for the cash. So what is, even just as an average, what's kind of an entry level, and then what would be at that higher level, that director, what would kind of be the pay scale for your different positions? So Patrice, we'll start with you.
So I believe entry level, I would say, is probably around 20 to 25,000. I know I came in at a lower rate, but it depends on, Southwest Florida. It was pretty even. So middle management, was probably be about 50. And then, you know, going up from there based on your experience, hours, and level, you know, from there. So it's not too bad, but we know, and we, you know, with us, we have other benefits. So we have insurance fully paid. You know, we have, you know, the flexibility of time off that you might not have another job. We have, I'm trying to think what else. We have a 401k. So, you know, there's a lot of other avenues that are covered that actually makes it almost even for one of the big marketing positions I had before, which is unusual. But coming from New York, you know, there's a difference here, but I think we're starting to see some things level out a little more. So I think it's important to like what you do, because like Jacob was saying, you know, if you're miserable at the end of the day, you know, an extra couple of thousand is not going to do it.
Right. Michele?
Yeah, I would agree with Patrice in a lot of ways. You do have to look at different parts of the country, and cost of living, that definitely plays into it. And while I think we would all agree our cost of living is not low, but typically the Southeast is not a magnet for, you know, we don't have the same salaries as we do in other parts of the country. I think it's really important to look at the benefits of the organization, like the health insurance and their time off. All of those things are super important. And I think when you're new and out of college and you've never paid for any of that yourself, you don't realize, you think it's just extra money, but you know, we are a large health system, so we are able to keep those costs down, and our benefits are very good, but it's not the same everywhere. So you do have to look at that. You know, you're not going to get rich being a child life specialist, and I think it's pretty similar to teaching in most areas, the salary. So, you know, they might start at 30, 31, maybe 40 something in the middle. It is going to depend on how long you stay in an organization too. Sometimes some places pay more for a master's, some places don't. We try to be very competitive in the field of child life across the country. So the Association of Child Life Professionals does salary surveys so that we can always try to advocate for what we know. If you stay in the field and become a director, I mean, there's a possibility to make decent money in the 80s, you know, or where it depends again on different situations. I caution young women that want to be child life specialists to not take out lots of student loans, because really in the end of the day, this isn't the field that it's going to pay off. I mean, I know some people have to, but just try to look at all of that when you're looking at a career. But I remember coming home and telling my dad I wasn't going to be a nurse and I was going to be a child life specialist. And this was a very long time ago. And he said, "How much money do they make?" And I just said, "I don't care, because I just want to be one and I would do it for free." He didn't really like the answer, but I never looked back. And so you do, when you find your passion and you find your place, I think you're super lucky. So I've been really, really lucky. It's not been about the money, but it is definitely a consideration that people should look at though too.
Thank you. Jacob.
So yeah, we have the added benefit too of a program that will help pay for half of your master's if you apply for it. So that was definitely attractive at this company. I remember thinking about that when being hired. Also, since I've been here, the people I've worked with, I don't know if it's like this in all social work positions, but the people I've been working with have been unbelievable. My supervisors, my managers were such a team. I've never felt more like a team. I'm making a comfortable amount, but it's not enough. Like, I want to buy a home, so I just picked up serving shifts again on the weekends at a restaurant. Why not? Working 7 days a week, but hey, I love it. So you have to do things if you want to get certain places. But I know my long game here with the masters and maybe moving up, you know, in positions and stuff like that. So the benefits are great. The people are great, and the pay is it's not as much, but it's comfortable and you can make it work.
Right. And you guys all touched on very good points for our students to keep in mind. I know they always say like, "Oh, how much money am I going to make?" But you have to also think of those extras that they might not be tangible money, but it is things that the value adds up. So insurance, you know, if you're paying insurance on your own, you could be paying up to $400 a month for your health insurance. So if you have a company that's paying for that for you, you have to also think of that as an added value. 401k, so saving up for retirement. You know, when students don't necessarily think of that because it's so far down the road, but it's definitely something that you have to consider. And then any sort of furthering education, helping to pay for that is huge. That's a big added benefit. And then, like Jacob said, your team, the people that you work with. So you want to enjoy what you're doing and the people that you work with and the team that you're on. And sometimes that is more valuable than a couple extra $1,000 in your pocket. Right.
If you write good grants, you can help increase your pay.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Right, exactly. And I think Michelle also touched on keeping in mind whatever your pathway is, trying to find a cheaper way to get there. So I know here in Florida, if you're going for a certification, look at the public technical colleges. So Fort Myers Tech and Cape Coral Tech, very affordable. And a lot of times your federal financial aid through the FAFSA will cover your entire program cost to make that free. If you're thinking higher education, so associate's degree, bachelor's degree, look into the 2+2 program. So go to a state college first for the first 2 years to get all of those core credits out of the way before you then transfer into a university. Obviously, public is always a lot cheaper than private. So any of your federal financial aid will also help cover. I know FSW, if you qualify for the full FAFSA Pell Grant, that will cover an entire year at FSW. So something to keep in mind, students, if you are thinking of going the post-secondary route, make smart choices, do your research, talk to your counselors, talk to your career specialists, talk to programs that are out there to help you with that. All right, what opportunities are available for high school students to do any sort of career exploration within your field, even at your specific businesses? So do you allow job shadowing? Do you have an opportunity for high school interns? And if that's something that your business is interested in starting, reach out to me. That's our little shameless plug. But what opportunities do you have available for high school students right now? We'll start with Patrice.
Of course. I'm trying to think. So we are willing, if we have a student that calls us, you want to think on your feet. So we work with high school students, especially with all the Bright Futures hours they need, and college students. So if someone calls me that they're passionate about learning what it is we do, we'll work within our program and offices to get them in. I know we've had some students come in, for the 211 helpline for a day and can shadow just to see what that is and how intense that can be. And a lot of times we partner with with our agencies. So we know who the volunteer center managers are, or the directors, and we'll try to connect them with folks for those programs. We work very closely with the FGC service learning folks, with FSW. So if they send students over, we've got students who are volunteering in our tax program, and we noticed they were just kind of trying to do the greeting part. And I knew they took the tax tests, so we make sure that they get fully engrossed in all of our programs and try to see that extra steps, because we get that full service part of it. This is what we do. This is why you're doing it. So even if you volunteer with us for something that might seem menial, so if you're doing something for our campaign, we go through the whole process of making sure that experience is, this is what we are doing, this is why we do it, and these are the steps to get there. So if you're doing a fundraising event, it's not just showing up that day and all that stuff. There's a lot that goes into it before we get to that point. So we're open. We don't have a set program, but when folks call us, we fit them in wherever we can. And if it's something that's not with us, we'll call up that agency and try to get them to those opportunities.
Thank you. And I did have a question in the chat. Would you or someone with United Way in the VITA program be interested in sharing about taxes with Mr. Shell's class?
Sure.
Okay, and I'll get the two of you linked up after we get off the call. Michelle, what opportunities do you have for high school students?
So for high school students, I can speak to my own program. We do have requests at times for them to shadow a child life specialist to see what that looks like. So that's one way. We would schedule them to come in, and they'd probably spend about 3 or 4 hours the morning or the afternoon and just following around one or two of the specialists to see what they do. They're able to ask questions. We do have a formal, with Lee Health, a formal teenage volunteer program. However, I'm not sure that it will happen this year. It didn't happen last year because of COVID. Our volunteers have not returned to Lee Health. Actually, I take that back. Just this week, the few people that work like on the first floor in clerical, those volunteers have been able to come back, but there's no volunteers, which we've missed terribly over the year, anywhere else in our hospital. So I'm not sure the volunteer program will be in effect this year, but normally they take applications in the spring. Usually you can find them online, and then they do their volunteering in the summer. They can do 4 hours a week, or at least they have to commit to 6 weeks in the summer. And they can be placed anywhere in the hospital, but they can be placed in the child life program. And then every week they would come in and they would be on the unit with the child life specialist, playing with the children in the playroom, or sitting with babies at the bedside, or cleaning toys, or taking kids for walks in the wagon, in the park, or in the garden. So we do have opportunities for high school students in that capacity.
Thank you. And Jacob, what about with Lutheran Services?
We work with a lot of high school age people, and there's a lot of confidentiality. So we don't really have any programs right now for high schoolers, I would say, yet though, because even thinking about it now, again, we're pretty open-minded to having things. And I'm even just thinking about it now, I'm thinking one of the things a lot of the kids that we work with need is tutoring. And I could see a great program where other high schoolers are tutoring one-on-one another high schooler. So maybe there's something in the future that we can kind of build on.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So last question. This will be our wrap up. If you could go back to your high school self when you are 15, 16, 17 years old, preparing for whatever comes next, what piece of advice would you give yourself? What have you learned over the years that you wish you could go back and share some wisdom with your teenage self? We'll start with Jacob.
All right. Yeah, I already know this one because I've said it so many times, but my big one was involvement. I wish I was more involved I wish I had just tried out for every single sport and every single club and gotten every single thing ever, because it's just I was so not involved. It took until college, a couple of years into college, for me to realize getting involved is what gets you out there, what gives you opportunity, what allows you to just meet people and network, and the importance of networking, all that stuff. I didn't even think about it in high school. So get involved as much as you can. I know it's hard with COVID right now, but whatever it is out there, do it.
Thank you. Michelle.
I totally agree with Jake on that. And the other thing is I'm much older than them, so my opportunities were a little bit limited, but I really felt badly that I didn't ask the questions of why I couldn't be something. Like you see something on TV, or you heard about something, and I never went to the guidance counselor and said, oh, what about being a da-da-da? They just said, well, here's the career paths, and they were pretty basic. Unless you knew something that you really wanted to learn about, they didn't go out of their way to present you with lots of different opportunities. So I feel like today, these kids, the world is theirs, and there's so many opportunities. And so even though they're not presented on the board at the school, or nobody's talking about them, just inquire about them and ask to find somebody to help find that information. But I agree with Jake fully. Just be involved and meet people and talk to people. You'd be surprised how many people want to be mentors and how far that can get you, just somebody on your side. So that's my advice.
Thank you. And that also plays into, I know previous episodes, mentoring has come up many times. So finding someone that kind of shares the same interests and shares your passion and can help you along your pathway. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your guidance, your school counselor or your career specialist. Finding someone that can serve as a mentor, just a trusted adult. Patrice, what would your advice be?
I would say not be so worried about what everybody thinks. I'm still working on that one, but really, I was involved, I was in sports, some clubs, some things like that, but I was always very timid about, what everybody was thinking about me. And I'm, and so not getting it, so getting more out of your shell, not be so worried about what this one thinks about what you're, wearing or what you're doing. And very not, so I was so judgmental of myself that I wasn't open, so to have fun, like you said, get involved, ask questions, so that you can learn what you do. I mean, I knew I wanted a business degree with a major in marketing because I just love, and that falls into any field. Every business or every person, every program has to market themselves. So it's been great for my career. But I think I was always, it's not till now that I don't worry about what everyone's thinking all the time. So, don't put so much emphasis on that. Be comfortable with yourself. And don't be afraid to ask questions and go for what you're passionate about.
Thank you. Very good advice from all of our panelists. Well, thank you three for being on here with us today. Mr. Shell, does your class have any other questions? I don't see anything coming in the chat. All right, well, before we wrap up, I am gonna go ahead and do another quick screen share. Can you see? Awesome. Okay, so these are all of our career ed talks for the year. Today was human services. So our next one is in 2 weeks, same day, Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Information technology is the career pathway that we will be going over next week. Please also remember, or in 2 weeks, that our YouTube channel with all of our previous recordings is available. It's Lee County CTE YouTube. Pretty easy to find if you just do a search on YouTube, and that is where we upload all of our Career Ed Talks episodes. Again, thank you to our three panelists. This was a really good panel, so thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come and share with our students, and stay in touch. Let me know if there's anything that Brandy and I can do for any of you. And I hope everyone has a great Wednesday.
Thank you all. Bye.
Yeah.
Good day.